Again.
Now you're live.
Now we're live. So this is really funny. This is the beauty of either user error or technology. We're going to blame it on technology and not on user error.
Nope.
I mean, I don't know how many. Oh, look at that.
But use balloons.
I don't know how many shows now I have done, and I do them a lot. In fact, I had one even this morning for my Caff-AI Chats, and for some reason I had a glitch in the system. So I apologize that we are starting late. Normally I have this cute little countdown. Leslie is the one, she had already put a little note that she had said excited to be here, and I noticed she couldn't actually see us there. So and she asked, will it start? So Leslie, we are glad you were out there. I'm glad that you sent that note, and I didn't realize we weren't live. So we're going to start this all over again. Sorry, Melissa.
That's okay.
Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. I went in reverse order, and I open my lives and my shows always with that entry because I think it's so super cool again that no matter where we are in the world and regardless of the time zone, we can all come together in one place and have amazing conversation. And we're doing just that today with Melissa here. We are tuning in from you from different parts of the country. For those of you that are tuning in, please definitely let us know where you are. Leslie, we'd love to have you tell us. Otherwise, I'm here in Houston, Texas. Melissa, where are you at?
I am in New York City.
Awesome. And we did have in our pretend live where we thought it started, we had a whole conversation around New York. We will not bore you with that. Come back and we'll have another conversation around New York at some later point. But just know you should go there during Christmas time. Bryant Park. Love that place. Anyway, so on Blue TV that we hold every Wednesday, unless I'm on vacation, that we hold every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Houston, Texas time, which is Central Standard. We come to you and share a little bit about some amazing experts who have had tremendous amounts of success. Maybe it's even just been a little, but success in their own right here on LinkedIn, to learn a little bit about them, what they do, and how they've leveraged that in their here on the LinkedIn platform. So the goal is that you get to know a little bit more about someone who's amazing, learn to follow them, about their content, and most importantly, you take some tips that they have had or that they have provided, some practical tips that you can actually apply in your LinkedIn strategy once you leave our session today. So if you're on Team Live, make sure that you leave comments as Leslie has, which we're super excited. She's tuning in from New York, and she was so glad that the glitch was fixed. Yes, I guess I could say that if I'm being honest, it was probably user error. So I'm sorry for that. And she said conversations about New York never, ever bore her. So we talk about, I always kick it off with how I really met Melissa. And it was from a group that we're in. I'd known Melissa, so we'd been engaging in some content for a while. I don't know if she even realized that, but I followed Melissa for a bit. We weren't really super connected, meaning it's not like we knew each other super well. I just knew her content and would engage every now and then with her content, and then even in the comments in others' content. And I just love Melissa. But then in January, we had an opportunity to come together in a group. And so I've gotten to know her a bit more, but I also have gotten to know her content even more because within that group, we've tried really hard to follow one another and engage a bit more. And so I'm really proud to say that she is one of my LinkedIn friends here. And I really would do her a disservice by doing any more of an introduction. So I'm going to pass it right on over to you, Melissa, so that you can do your own introduction and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Sure, thank you. So I'm Melissa Cohen. And for many years, I would have given you my intro as saying that I was an executive in the fashion industry. But what recently has happened is that I have, much to my own surprise, discovered that I absolutely love this platform. I love LinkedIn. It has brought so much joy and so many opportunities to me that I realized that really the work that I love doing is helping others to enjoy the platform as much as I do. And so I am working now on thought leadership, personal branding, and just community building here on LinkedIn. Both personally, I do one-on-one coaching sessions and work one-on-one with clients, and then also as part of the community. And the journey has been such a joy and really something I never anticipated a few years ago. And that's really been just a pleasant surprise.
I love that. I have had this love-hate relationship for a while with LinkedIn. And it wasn't until January, or maybe February or March timeframe, I came back and I really changed my mind space. I mean, I made a shift and I started to really love LinkedIn. And, I realized even in that love-hate relationship, when I had a love relationship, I was fostering more conversations. I was getting better at my messaging. I was actually earning more opportunities to both partner and onboard new clients. And when I had a hate relationship, that would go away, right? My pipeline would just dwindle to almost nothing. And so I realized in order for me to see true success, I needed to shift my mind space and actually do something different. So I did. And I came in February and I said, okay, I'm all in and I am going to love LinkedIn. I'm going to have to find a way to do that. And I'm going to do it with passion and excitement. And so here I am. But that being said, you have, it seems like, had a really long-standing love for LinkedIn. Now, long-standing meaning here in the last, it seems like 4 years maybe, but mine has been really only in the last 5 months. I've been active for a while, but my real love relationships, I guess, how did you do that? What fostered this love? And then maybe I can share my mind shift or my mind space shift that really enabled me to do a better job, right? Of actually showing up with love, but maybe share why you love or some of the things that were so life-changing for you.
Absolutely. And you said life-changing, and it really was. And I know that sounds crazy, right? How could LinkedIn be life-changing? But for me, it was. And so I have had a LinkedIn account because I went back and I looked. I was like, when did I come to LinkedIn? 2008 was when I joined LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I did nothing with that profile. I did not ever post. I did not ever comment. I don't even think I had a photo for the longest time, right? Because I was like, ew, creepy. I don't want my picture on the internet. Like, ew. 2008 was a long time ago. And what happened is in 2020, like many people, I lost my job, right? I was working at my dream company. I was where I thought I would retire, to be truthful. I never really planned to leave. And then the pandemic happened. I was unemployed and living in New York City, which I know everyone had a hard time during the pandemic. I don't pretend anybody didn't, but New York City was rough. I mean, we had very, very severe lockdowns. We had a very high infection rate, a very high death count. And I started to realize, wow, I really have to go back and rebuild my network, right? Because I kind of let it fall by the wayside, to be 100% honest. I was never really planning on looking for a job. And so I kind of let that all fall. And so, of course, I went to LinkedIn, right? Because where do you go if you want to rebuild your network? But the most interesting thing that happened wasn't so much the rebuilding of my network as it was that I made a post. And that first post killed me. I was so anxious about it. It was a really bad post. It was a repost of like a Women's Wear Daily article. And I think I wrote a sentence, like exactly what I would tell my clients don't do, right? But I didn't know any better.
Well, and I mean, let's be honest, no one comes on here as this amazing content creator right away anyway, right? It takes a bit of time. The first one's always going to suck terribly.
It sucked. It was bad. But, I didn't get booed off the stage, right? Nobody said mean things to me. Nobody said, go home. Nobody said, you're bad. In fact, it got a little bit of engagement, not a ton, but given how few followers I had, I was excited. And so that gave me the courage to keep posting, right? And I was just shocked by the positivity. Social media as a whole is so negative in my opinion and in my experience, right? I was on Twitter for a hot second and I was like, for my own mental wellness, I must leave. LinkedIn is a positive platform. It really is. And the vast majority of people here want to support you, want to see you succeed because they want to succeed with you, right? I was on actually an audio this morning with our friend Wendy, and she was talking about how, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? That's not just a saying here. It really has been my experience on LinkedIn. And so as I posted, as I connected, as I built a community here, I really felt that I found my voice. And I really found it to be an outlet during the pandemic, right? When I couldn't see a lot of people in person and we were scared. We didn't know if even being outside was safe, at first, early on in the pandemic. This really became my social outlet. And I don't think enough people realize that, yes, LinkedIn is a professional platform, 100%, but it is at the end of the day social media. And you really can build a community here, right? Not just a network, not just people to help you find a job or to be your clients, but you can also truly build a community here. And one of the things that I love is getting to see people in real life that I've met on the platform. I just posted about one today. And I do that all the time. I love to meet people that I've connected with on the platform in real life. And I think that that's something super special about LinkedIn that you don't necessarily find elsewhere.
I agree. Well, most of the time when you're connecting on Facebook or any of the other social media platforms, they're all there for you're there for a different purpose. So Facebook are all of your friends. You don't normally just connect with others. You don't build a community unless you're a business owner. You don't, as a common user, you don't really build a community like that on, like, for example, Facebook, whereas you do here on LinkedIn. But something that I found interesting in my experience, and I haven't shared this that often, but I think it really aligns with, so what you said resonates with me because it aligns with my experience as well, which was in 2020, I was also laid off. Now, I was not in New York City, but I have always been in sales. So you're in front of your clients all the time. And all of a sudden you're isolated and you're sequestered to your home. So this being out in the field every day, now I'm stuck in front of my laptop, right? And I'm not seeing those clients and those customers face to face any longer. And I got laid off like you did. I had been there over 11 years. I thought that was, I built what I thought was my family. That was that was they were my second family. Sometimes they were actually kind of my first family because I spent so much time with them. Right. And I told the guys I loved them, right? They were my team. They were my brothers. And then when I got laid off, it hit me really, really hard. But where I found solace was, right after, I'm crying days after I got laid off. I'm bawling behind the laptop and I write this article about how I got laid off and how I picked myself back up and published it on LinkedIn. And it was like, for me at the moment, because I had very few followers, that was like, it went viral for me. And I thought that I had hit the jackpot because all of a sudden I had people who actually came around who cared, right? And I started to have these people who filled in that void that I had or that I was missing when I wasn't out seeing everyone. And I had all these supporters. Now, it did help that I also found I had 5 job offers in a month's time because of that article. But nonetheless, that's the side benefit. The real benefit was the community that I started to foster because they cared about how I felt and what I was going through. And then I kind of took a step back, didn't fully come on 100% yet. I was starting to leverage LinkedIn a bit more. I found a new job. But then in 2020, around about that time, or 22, sorry, 21, 22 was when I started to really realize that I was going through this depression and I needed to start this journey of healing in order to get on the other side of that, because I knew it was far more deep rooted than just the layoff and losing what I thought was my family. And it was like people came to support me. It was amazing at the amount of community I built. People that are still my friends, who are true friends now, I've never met live, but are my true friends, who, yes, they saw me in my rawest moments, but they've become my professional partners as well. It's amazing what we can do here.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm constantly amazed at the generosity and also the genuineness of the people that I meet here. It is unparalleled. It is as if somehow, we talk about the algorithm on LinkedIn all the time, but the algorithm that I like is, I truly believe there is some magical algorithm that just pairs you with the people that are meant to find you, that you're meant to connect with. And I truly believe that.
Okay, well, tell us, and I agree with you. I love that. So I'm going to actually think about that every time someone connects with me. I'm going to say it's the algorithm that is sending me their way, and vice versa. They're sending them my way at the same time. But tell us a little bit about what you do, some of the success you've seen, and why you've turned that into a business.
Yeah, so I'm a complete social media novice, right? Like I said, I was using Facebook. I have never had a Facebook page, ever. Never will. If I haven't had one by this time in my life, I'm never going to. I was on Twitter, as I said, for a hot second.
Yeah.
And I look at Instagram sometimes because I like pretty pictures, but that's about the extent of it. And so no one was more surprised than me when I started to have what you would call success here, right? I started to grow my follower count. I started to have a lot of engagement. I started to have people just give me really positive feedback on a regular basis. And that meant a lot to me, right? Like you said, people supporting you and people helping you during your time of need. This was all new for me, right? I had always had a very traditional corporate career. And so my first pivot was to start my own business consulting, still in the fashion industry at this time, but still a very different animal, right? When you've gone from being corporate for decades to all of a sudden being, your own solopreneur as a consultant is a big shift.
Yes.
And so I really did rely on the community here a lot. And I just consistently would get this positive feedback of, how well I was doing on LinkedIn, right? How, oh, you're blowing up LinkedIn, you're so successful, you're so good at this. And it was a little surprising to me at first, right? To get that sort of feedback. And then actually, I really owe a big debt of gratitude to a friend of mine, Julie Morris, who I partner with in the community that I mentioned briefly a little while ago, DIY Influence. She asked me if I wanted to speak on her podcast. And this is how new I was to this whole thing. I had done a podcast taping like a week or so before. And I remember saying, is it okay that I just did a podcast like a week ago? Are you sure you want? And she was like, girl, you go on as many podcasts as you can. Like, it is not like that. Like, get your voice out there as much as you want.
Yeah.
And so we did the podcast. And what really came of it is that we genuinely clicked, right? We genuinely hit it off, had a great conversation. And Julie is in this space, right? She does thought leadership training. She works with people on personal brand. She started this community. And she said, I don't know if you know this, but you're very good at this and you should think about doing it. And I was like, what? You mean like as a career? Like what? And, she definitely planted that seed, right? And I started to realize that she was right. So the first thing that I did is I started to do this. We have a boot camp every 2 months, a couple times a year. We do a 4-week boot camp together. And so she asked me if I wanted to co-teach it. I said, okay, why not, right? What's the worst that can happen? This is the new me. What's the worst that can happen? And it was so much fun. I had the best time. I enjoyed it so much. The people, again, I think you attract what you're meant to attract, right? And this community just attracts genuine, nice people. And I had the best time. 4 weeks, 2.5 hours a week. It flew by in a minute. All of a sudden, it was like, this is our last week. What? How is that possible? And I just had the best time. And I started to realize that there's a lot of people who don't know how to leverage the platform in the most optimal way. They still have the LinkedIn of, I always make a joke, the LinkedIn of 2015 mentality, right? Because it used to be a very different place. It was very dry. It was, you only came here if you needed a job. You only posted, your resume. It's so different. And there's so much to learn and so much to gain from being here, whether you need a job, whether you want to start your own business, whether you just want to build a community, whether you want to build like a side hustle, whatever it is, there's so much opportunity here. And I started to realize that I can show people how to do that. And have fun doing it. Like, what's better than doing something that you genuinely enjoy?
That you have fun with and that you see success and results with because you're having fun. I mean, positive energy, it just breeds more positive energy, right? So tell me, what was the thing that enabled you to get all these accolades and build this community? What were, maybe it wasn't just one thing, but what was 1, 2, or 3 tips that you really took on that really fostered this success, these accolades, and these opportunities that you had?
So the first thing is, you said it yourself, have fun, right? And there's 100, it's probably way more than 100, but there's 100 LinkedIn coaches out there, right?
Yes.
It's become a thing. And what I think really sets me apart is I have fun, and I want the people that I work with to have fun. I don't want it to be a chore. I don't want it to be, tracking every minute metric that you could possibly check and how many likes did this post get. And who cares? Have fun. If you have fun and you're genuine and you're doing the right things, of course there are best practices. There are absolutely things that I will tell you, do this, do not do that. But the biggest one is just have fun. And then part of that is being genuine, right? Being authentic. I know it's overplayed. Everybody rolls their eyes at, authenticity. But it's true. I firmly believe that people were attracted to me and my content because I just am who I am. Mm-hmm. And I say what I want to say. And if you meet me in person, I'm going to be exactly the way you think I am. I'm going to be exactly the way I am on LinkedIn because that's really who I am. I don't have a different persona because I'm on a social media platform. And I think that's super important, right? I've seen people make this huge mistake of they find a creator who's had success on the platform and they think, okay, I have to copy that. Mm-hmm. I have to be just like that person. Except you're not that person. And so first of all, people can kind of tell, especially if they knew you before, right? And then all of a sudden you have this different persona. But you can't keep that up in real life. And you can't keep that up when you're on a job interview or when you're working with clients or when you're in the workplace. It's just not a good strategy. And then truthfully, I think what really set me apart and gave me success, and this is not going to be something that everyone can replicate to my scale, but you can replicate to your own scale, is really engaging and really engaging in comments. Yeah. A lot of people post, right? They just make that post. And I've seen people who will have 10, 12 comments on their post and they don't answer them. And I just think that's it's such a missed opportunity, right? I think of LinkedIn as a party. I really do. Or Julie likes to call it like her virtual Starbucks, right? Either one, take your pick. If you're at a party and someone walks up to you and says something, what are you going to do?
You're going to respond back.
You're going to say something back.
Right.
You wouldn't just look at them and then walk away. You would answer. So same mentality, right? If somebody takes the time to comment on my post, I'm going to do my absolute utmost to respond back. And if I see somebody's content that is interesting, that resonates with me, I'm going to leave a comment on it, right? Because that's what we're all here for. We want that validation. We want to know that what we put out there matters to someone. Did it impact you? And it's okay to disagree too, as long as you do it in a way that's polite and thoughtful, right? I don't need to be in an echo chamber. If you think that what I said, you don't agree with it, let's have a conversation around it. Like, that's cool.
That's the difference. Have a conversation, which is what I love about the comments, right? The goal with a comment is not just to say, now, sometimes I will because I want to support that person. I want them to know I've read their post and I don't have time to maybe engage in a thoughtful and purposeful way with every single person. But I will stop by and say, usually, at the very least, I'll say, great, I enjoyed reading this and here's why, right? But it's always more, it's at least something that could potentially foster some conversation. But my intent usually always is to foster conversation in the comments, right? Because that's really how if you're not a content creator, if you are fearful of putting yourself out there, which, by the way, if I reflect back on the start of our conversation where you talked about some of the success before you really dove into the 3 things that you thought might, that were successful for you. When you just talked about success in general and your experience here, you talked about showing up and just putting yourself out there. Sometimes it doesn't feel quite right just yet to put yourself out there and be a content creator. That's okay. But at least engage in the comments, because as long as you're engaging there, not only are you fostering conversation, but you're also helping to create this voice or build this voice. You're getting better at honing in on what you want to do, right? And the direction you want to go, because you're having more conversation around it. What better place to do that than in a place like this, where you're not going to get your fingers slapped? It doesn't matter what you say, well, within reason, but you know what I mean, right? I mean,
you don't deserve it. Yes.
Yeah, you can't have all these types of conversations at the in the break room at your office, right? And you certainly can't have them if you're by yourself sitting in front of your desk. You can have them on platforms like LinkedIn, where then you can hone in really what you want to do, how you want to message it, what your position is in various different perspectives. I mean, I think it's so super cool that you can do that.
Absolutely. And what you said is exactly one of the first things that I tell people if they're really, really afraid to post, right? I have some clients who are like, I just can't do it yet. I'm just not ready. Start with the comments. It is the easiest way to ease into visibility, right? It's a little more hidden, and I would tell people, don't go comment on the biggest creator's post that has 3,000 comments already, because that's not really going to do anything for you. Find somebody that that you're connected with, whose content is interesting, that has a handful of comments on it, and add your comment there, right? You're going to have a little bit of visibility, but it's not so scary. It's not this whole big post of your own words. It's just a little comment. And then you'll start to engage in conversations. Somebody will answer your comment. The best thing in the world that makes me happy on my posts is when I see 3 or 4 or 5 of us having a conversation within a comment thread.
Yes.
It's the coolest thing ever. And it is exactly like you said. It's like the water cooler. It's like the break room. You're just having this conversation with your friends.
And that's where you not only build the relationships and your voice, but you also foster opportunity, right? Maybe it's collaboration, maybe it's opportunity because now you've thought of a new post, right? You can take that conversation and when you want to put yourself out there, you can finally create your own post, but you can leverage the conversation that you had. I mean, there's so much value in having those water cooler type of conversations in the comments that you can take and do so much with if you just go in with an open mind and really wanting to have those conversations.
What's the first thing that happens when you put a comment on someone's post? LinkedIn gives you that little AI suggestion, turn your comment into a post. Now, sometimes it's ridiculous because sometimes your comment would not be a post, but a lot of times it would be. And I've done it. I've taken a comment that I've made and said, oh, you know what? That actually could be something to start a post. And then I'll think about it from there. And you just put up a beautiful comment, right? Leslie and I did meet in the comments section of, I don't know if it was my post, her post, someone else's post. I don't remember. But we did meet in the comments. And, Leslie and I do a monthly live now. Every month we have a LinkedIn Live together. And it's a perfect example of how you can meet people, how you can meet collaboration partners, how you can meet clients, whatever the need is that you have, you can find it here. And it's all about just getting started.
And so we talked about comments, right? But what if, you talk about thought leadership. Thought leadership is much more than just comments, right? You do actually have to be a content creator. So you've got someone who's out there who they've started down the commenting, they've established what they have as their own content strategy. They're still a bit fearful about posting. How do you take them from commenting to truly posting and getting them over that fear?
Yeah, sure. So thought leadership's another one of those buzzy terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And another one of those terms that people will sometimes roll their eyes at. But thought leadership is just, the way I explain it to people, it's your lived experience, right? It's your passion. It's what makes you happy, or it's what makes you really angry, right? Like, that's a great prompt for people that a lot of times when I work with people, I say, well, what's making you mad today? what's making you mad that you would like to change? And I do tell people, like, let's not be overly controversial. Let's not be polarizing. So I would say, maybe you don't want to post about, the election or something,
No.
right out of the gate. I would really say avoid that. But just what's something that, maybe it's, so in the fashion industry, a big thing for me was sustainability, right? I would get very upset about, we talk about sustainability and how, Gen Z is going to demand sustainability in their apparel, but then you see how they're still enamored with fast fashion, right? And those two things are very at odds with one another. So that was something I posted about a lot. So thought leadership is just talking about what's important to you. And you don't have to have a fancy degree from a fancy university to be a thought leader. Anyone not only can be a thought leader, but in my opinion, everyone is a thought leader. It's just having the courage and the strength to put those thoughts out. And that can be in a post, it can be in a live, it can be in an audio, it could be in a TEDx, it can be in a million different ways. Just share what you know with people. And that's the behavior that LinkedIn has really been rewarding, which I'm really happy to see. They are really rewarding knowledge-based content, right? And sharing what you know with other people.
Well, I mean, I don't usually like to talk about Blue TV as being really the top voices, but I think it's important to note here because I don't have a huge following. I just hit 12,000 followers or content or connections. I don't really know. I haven't looked at the difference of how many are followers or connections. It doesn't really matter to me, but the point is they've started to recognize even those people who are that have less than 10,000 people in their community, right? Because they're looking at the content, not necessarily the following. The following's great if you have it. If you've got a goal that you want to reach and hit those numbers, then great. But it's really about the content that you're generating.
100%. You raised a really good point. Some people actually, because I read a lot of comments, some people were actually a little miffed. It's like, why did that person get a top voice? They only have 5,000 followers, whatever. I think that's lovely, right? Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Why do we only want to listen to the people with 200,000 followers? I'm going to probably see their content anyway, right? Because they have so many followers. The chances are pretty good that someone I know is commenting on their post or, reacting to their post. I see that stuff all the time. I want to see the smaller voices and I want to support the smaller voices. And I support the big voices too. I have a couple of people that have very big followings that I'm very fond of, but I absolutely want to support those newer voices, right? Because that's what people did for me. And we all started with 0 followers at one point. Yep. And I don't have a huge following either. I think I'm just under 14,000 now. I think I'm like 13,700 maybe. That's not a huge following either by LinkedIn standards. But I think it's wonderful that they're recognizing smaller creators and smaller voices because what we have to say is important.
Well, the other thing too is, and there are some creators that I adore who have 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 followers. And, sometimes they engage and sometimes they don't. But the reality is the larger number of followers that one has, the less that they're actually having conversation with you in the comments. So when you are following those that have smaller followings and you're engaging with them, more than likely they're going to engage back. And that's the beauty of building a thought leadership, of really getting out there, putting yourself out there, and in engaging on LinkedIn or the conversations. Again, I think of when I talk about even just sales, I mean, I've been in sales for forever. When I talk about sales, when I talk about LinkedIn, it's about a friendship, right? I mean, it's more than just dating, although some people liken it to dating, right? It's how would you engage with someone when you're dating, right? Well, even then you wouldn't always engage with someone in the same way that you're dating that you would on LinkedIn or sales. It's really thinking about it in terms of a friendship. It's a new friendship, but when you are starting a friendship, you don't just go and give them a quick hello and then move on. You want to know about them. You want to get to know them a bit more. You want to share a little bit about yourself. There's a level of intimacy that you foster, right? And when you can do that more effectively, then you really truly build those relationships. And you're not going to do that with those large followers. Now, sometimes they do, yes. Sometimes you can engage, but most of the time when they have those large followings, you're not going to get that same relationship that you would when you're engaging with the smaller ones.
Yeah, and it's not even their fault, right? I see it even myself, right? Like I was talking about before how I really make an effort to respond to every comment. It's gotten harder for me. It used to, right? Which is a great problem to have. So please don't stop commenting. I love all your comments. But it's harder, right?
It is harder.
If you have 20 comments on a post, it's easier to respond to all of them than if you have 200 comments on a post. And then if you're the big creators and you have 1,000 comments,
it's really hard.
You're not going to, you can't do it. It's honestly, or you're going to hire like some VA to do it, which I
disagree with.
You all have my word. There will never be anyone posting, commenting anything as me, ever, 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 ever. I understand why people do it, but it's so important to me that everything that I say comes from me and is my voice and it's my fingers typing. I don't subscribe to that policy whatsoever, but there's absolutely no way that those giant creators could possibly get back to every single person. It's just, there's not enough hours in the day.
There isn't. And so I don't, when I brought that up too, it wasn't meant in a negative way at all. Right. So, I don't want anyone to take it that way, but I do want to also recognize and respect everyone's time, because we're getting at that. And we did start, by my terms, I thought we started on time, but then we went through an entire introduction and even more than that. And all of a sudden we realized that we weren't live. So
thanks to Leslie.
Yes, thank you to Leslie for pointing that out. So what I want to do here is we've uncovered a lot. I mean, really if I could summarize what we talked about, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that you talked about really just putting yourself out there, just doing it, executing, right, in some way or another. And some of this I'm taking from what you said and kind of jumbling it up into my own interpretation of what you said. So that's why I say correct me if I'm wrong. But first off is just execute and get out there. And you can start with a commenting strategy if you're not posting, but just do one or the other and then evolve, because time evolves, right? And more importantly than any of the others is just have fun, be your authentic self and have fun. And did I capture enough of that?
Yes, ma'am. You got it.
Awesome. And then if we were to maybe leave everyone with a parting thought, something that you would think that was over and beyond what we just highlighted, which again, make sure you have pen and paper and write this down. It is have fun, just execute. And as you do, it doesn't matter whether it's your own content or commenting, just execute and have fun, but create a strategy around them and eventually put yourself out there. But what other tip or something would you leave everyone with that you would think would be so important?
I just think it's really important for people to know that, I said it at the beginning, LinkedIn is a positive platform. It's a platform of generosity. It's a platform of opportunity. You have to take some of it, like it's not just going to fall into your lap. You have to take some initiative. But for me, I have never seen anything where the ROI is greater. You will get out what you put in like tenfold.
Yeah. And I would say I would follow that up with my thought would be really summed up in the law of reciprocity. What you do, you get back in return. So it may not always show up exactly in that way. So just because you commented on 10 posts doesn't mean you're going to get 20 comments or 10 comments, whatever. It just means that maybe after all of that effort, you're going to build a partnership, or maybe it's that someone's going to ask you to be on a live. You really never know what you put. It's the law of reciprocity. What you do for others, you will get back in return in some way or another. So I'm super excited, Melissa, that you were here with us today. I appreciate all the little nuggets of gold that you dropped for us. I appreciate those that are out there with us, Anna, Leslie, Dawn, and I'm sure there were others. There's a little bit of a glitch with LinkedIn, so you can't even see how many people are even paying attention right now. But we appreciate you, whether you're on Team Live or on Team Replay. And if you join us by Team Replay, make sure you just leave a hashtag or some sort of comment so we can come back and engage in conversation with you. We'll get back to everyone at some point over the course of the next few days and engage back. We appreciate everyone being here. We hope that you've taken something and that you can apply on your own today when you walk away from this live stream. And if you have any questions, how is the best way to contact you, Melissa?
The best way to contact me is always on LinkedIn. Please connect or DM anytime. I promise you will get a response from me if you do. Probably the best way.
Awesome. And you can see her LinkedIn handle down in the ticker below, Melissa./Beth/Cohen, right? So I want to thank everyone for being here. Again, a reminder, we're here on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Central, which is Houston, Texas time for those of you that are on other parts of the world or in other parts of the world. So come back next week and join us again. And reach out to Melissa if you haven't already. Make sure you follow her and her content and engage with her, engage with us, and just really go out there, have an amazing hump day, and have fun here on LinkedIn. So again, thank you to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you back here again soon. I am going to now take us out by actually leaving us with a little bit of music as we end the stream, because I used to do it without, and it was weird. So here we go. So thank you, everyone.